DJ will kick the floor in 3, 2, 1. On the troll.
Yeah, if I never made a mistake, even today, then I will never do a mistake again. But yeah, we're here. It's that time. We're just here to deliver. We're not gonna be long because it's gonna be short, and we're sorry for being a bit late. There's a lot to digest, and I guess we had to go through it as much as we can. So, Emily, how are you doing?
Hi guys, welcome back to the Mzansi Reality YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your patience and holding on. Yes, I had a lot of things to attend to today. It was not a normal day for me, and I apologize for being late. It's my fault. That's why Mr. Anonymous was throwing shade at me. It's my fault that we're late. So I'm very sorry, you guys, but I managed to cover the proceedings of today. They were quite heavy. Felt like a biology class, eh?
Yeah, it was.
It felt like a biology class. It felt like, a science class. But all the information that the pathologist was deliberating on was very important. It kind of painted a picture of what actually happened to Senzo on that night and actually how he passed on. It helped create that picture that we've been wondering about for so many years. Today, he kind of put it together. What we can say is that there was a lot of blood. And those blood stains that they're talking about at the house, it's not making sure.
Yeah, but he went on to say that there was an internal bleeding more than an external bleeding when he was asked further.
But his clothes also tell a different story.
Yes, you can say that. You can say that. I just, these people, they are sort of mandated to tell the truth. And I cannot fault him, and I cannot fault the defense that much. I would say that, Emily, it is hard for these people to actually, from changing these witnesses, and now all of a sudden you are in a biology class where you have to know things differently and ask different questions. And I saw Ramusipedi from the beginning sort of being, I would say, all over us, mixing ballistic questions, even some of them giving them away, saying them in advance for ballistic people to prepare. I don't know. I felt that some of these questions were misplaced, which tomorrow we'll probably be asking these questions and they will have no value whatsoever. There's a lot of whys than anything. And I would say someone who handled this thing well, it was only 2 questions. Long ones, though. It's an essay because he was putting scenarios.
Yeah.
So the rest, they were repetitive. Chololo again, stabbing on some of them, revisiting the same questions and doing the same thing. And the judge trying to actually show that I'm smart. I don't know, smart. I'm listening. Doctor never said that. Or the master, basically. We don't know it's literally master or is it master of Kung Fu? I don't know.
He's a jack of all trades.
He prepares. Throwing jabs. It's like Mr. Anonymous. Throwing jabs. It's like, we prepare in this court.
Because he's had how many years as a presiding officer and how many witnesses from both sides has he had to listen to?
But we're not interested in being prepared or not prepared, or whether you're listening or not. We know for sure that you half listen. Most of the time, you are always wrong. That's what we have figured out. What was happening today, you were wide awake since the master was presenting. You were wide awake. And even defending the good doctor.
It was a challenging.
And you wanted to show
him.
Yeah, you wanted to show your side also that, you even told the unnecessary story that you told of what the first person that was done. Is it forensic? Who was shot in many, I don't know how many times, and only one wound actually. It was just a worse. Maybe we should someone trying to show that actually I prepared. You know, that person who's prepared for an interview and then such questions and they don't come up, it brings them. And the guy was like, hey, can I go now? After that, I don't know whether he was laughing or what, but I felt like, there was no need for you to do that. But I guess the judge is correct all the time.
So this
Shoot your
morning
shots.
he started with holding a book. He said he gave a lecture to the NPA. This is our beloved judge after he retired regarding ballistics. He says that he spoke to Mr. Sibani. I don't know who Mr. Sibani is, but he is the one who got him the book that he was holding, and it was a crime scene investigation textbook.
Yeah.
And he said that he had it after hearing from Advocate Mumalo and Advocate Mshololo. It looks like they were talking about it, and Mumalo confirmed that yes, that's what happened. However, Mshololo said that she did not hear the content of the conversation. She just saw him speaking to Advocate Banda. And the judge said, I'm just putting it on the record. It is useless information. It's just that the impression that some people may gather is that umuntu estate lo. You know, he's the person of the state. You saw him talking to Advocate Baloi. So Advocate Baloi said that there is more literature that Advocate Banda has gathered for him. So I'm going to assume that Advocate Banda is that gentleman who sits next to
The one who
Advocate
sometimes refuses to show the pictures. He must gather that information that he must assist everyone equally. So that's...
Yes, the judge said that the book is for elementary, it's for course 1 students. So Baloi asked for permission from his learned colleagues, and the judge said that, how can they refuse the judge informing himself about a case? So it's about 5 textbooks that they've offered the judge that he should go through and peruse. And I think they mainly have to do with ballistic investigations and stuff. So the state called Johannes Steenkamp. He chose to testify in English instead of Afrikaans. He's a forensic pathologist.
Yes.
Baloi said that Steenkamp will also refer to Meyiwa's postmortem and the photographs on Lieutenant Colonel Mhlahlo's photo album. Steenkamp referred to his affidavit and postmortem done at Germiston Mortuary.
Yes.
And Steenkamp said that he was a district surgeon since 1979 in Johannesburg, a specialist forensic pathologist. And Baloi asked, when did you get your first qualification? And Steenkamp said it was an MBCH in 1976 at the University of Pretoria. In 1979, he worked for the district surgeon. In 1983, he started specializing in forensic pathology. So he achieved a qualification called the F4 Path Fellowship in Forensic Pathology in 1988, an exam that he does through colleges of medicine in South Africa. So Baloi asked, from that period when you qualified as a forensic pathology specialist, how many postmortems do you carry out a year? And Steenkamp said it's usually 500 per year. Now that's a lot of postmortems.
It is a lot.
It's a lot. And he retired in 2016 and he was a principal specialist. Baloi asked, did you carry out any training? And Steenkamp said yes, with vet students. Some of them are paramedics, police, and law students. So Baloi asked, have you testified in court? And Steenkamp has testified in various courts, the High Court, inquest courts, regional courts. So Steenkamp also said that in the affidavit, he said, and I quote, on the 28th of October 2014, there was a body pointed to him at the Germiston Mortuary.
Yes.
The state announced that post-mortem pictures will not be beamed on the screen in court. He continued to say that he examined the body of a black male on the 28th of October 2014. He conducted a post-mortem on that body and recorded his findings. The height was 1.77 meters, a mass that he estimated to be around 80 kilograms,
Yes.
and normal body health. And special identifying features was an adult male wearing blood-stained t-shirt,
Yeah.
a blood-stained vest, blue tracksuit pants, and white and blue underpants. So the blue trousers had blood-stained fluid at the back
Yes.
and a small 0.5 centimeter hole on the central aspect of the pants just below the waistband. So this doesn't correspond to
With
any
the-
skin wound.
Yeah.
So there was no skin damage that happened there. Perhaps it was a tearing or something from the pants. The underpants were also blood-stained over the back. So this creates a picture that he was literally lying in a pool of blood, in my opinion, because the underpants were also blood-stained, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of have a picture that he was lying, his body was lying on a pool of blood.
The pool of blood. Yes.
So the white blood-stained T-shirt was 4 centimeters by 3 centimeters star-shaped hole over the front of the chest, corresponding to wound 2, a 1 centimeter hole over the back corresponding to wound 3, and the underlying vest was blood-stained, showing a 3 centimeter by 2 centimeter, a round hole at the anterior chest posterior region, and that's in front and the back. So defect means that it's a hole. And the clothing were not required for any special investigation after the discussion with the investigative officer and ballistic team present at the autopsy, because they could pretty much determine what had ended his life. I think part of the reason why they didn't pursue with the clothing is because they already knew what killed him.
Yes. So there was no need for them to further take any test to
Yes.
see if he was present in that house and whatnot.
Yes.
Okay.
So this would be perhaps in conflict of not knowing how a person passed on. That's when you'd want to do more investigations because you can't determine exactly what happened for them to pass away. So a secondary post-mortem changes the body had been refrigerated and it was well preserved. So it seems like they had a first phase of post-mortem and then a second phase after refrigeration. Oh, I cannot do that job.
No, it's. I mean, I'm hearing. How do you say a body of someone is well preserved?
Hey, I cannot do that job. I feel like you have to have some kind of cuckoo in your head.
You must have a bit of.
Every day you have to open up bodies. I salute them, all of them who are working like that, even the people who are morticians. Your job is very important. Not all of us are built for it. And yeah, you all are doing an amazing job because wow. So Dr. Steenkamp was describing the wounds he found on Senzo Meyiwa's body when he did the post-mortem, external appearances of the body and condition of the limbs. He said there were ECG stickers. Those were electrocardiograph stickers, which were situated over the left anterior and right anterior chest walls. So this is the front of the chest over the left collar bone and over to the line extending from the shoulder downwards. So it looks like they were trying to resuscitate him. So he says this indicates that there may have been some resuscitative measures performed with an electrocardiograph to check the condition of the heart.
So even if he was gone, they had to still perform that process.
It seems like it is procedure to determine whether they are still there or not. I think they were doing it for that reason, so that they could write the proper condition that he arrived in.
look at me looking at you the same way Baloyi looks at the people that are testifying there. So he dwelled a bit on that. He wanted to hear that resuscitation and to sort of collaborate that story of the way the person was resuscitated.
So that Tabiseng can get out of the heat, because now I was judging Tabiseng. I'm like, you don't know. You are telling me that the whole medical staff could already see.
I think also not only it was about that, I feel like it was about also to prove a bit of life, and it did not work when this man further elaborated that they do it even if for a certain
even if they're deceased, they just want to check so that they can write a proper declaration that dead on arrival, or the person still had a heartbeat by the time they arrived at the hospital. So they need to check that. It's procedure, it seems. So Baloyi asked, where would the electro stickers be used? And Steenkamp said, during resuscitation or diagnostic procedures. So yes, diagnostic procedures could be, maybe there's a heartbeat somewhere, so we can take this person to ICU and see if we can't save their life. Yeah, bo? So yeah, it seems like it's procedure. So situated over the right front of the chest, 1 centimeter to the right of the midline, and 135 centimeter above the heel, is 3 centimeters by 1.5 centimeter oval shape lacerated wound. It's a tall oval shape wound. Okay, there is a semicircular abrasion over the superior and inferior aspects. Abrasion is the damage to the superficial layer of the skin. Dr. Steenkamp said that he thought that it was due to the muzzle of the firearm that was used. So the wound edges appeared seared, that a heat effect, that's burning situated just below the skin, blackened granular material consistent with gunshot residue were noted in the underlying soft tissue. So he said that when he opened the wound and explored it, he noticed this black granular material, and he came to a conclusion during the re-examination of this wound that this wound is consistent with a contact bullet entrance wound, due to the fact that when a muzzle is pressed to the skin, all the elements, that's the gas, the heat, the gunpowder, are driven into the skin. So with the muzzle firmly against the skin, especially the gas, will go below the skin and explode backwards towards the outside, resulting in this description, which is a big lacerated wound. So Baloyi asked, Doctor, when you say the gases explode backwards towards the outside, what do you mean? And Steenkamp said, away from the skin, towards the muscle or towards the firearm. So already this is also painting some kind of picture that he may have been in a tussle.
Yes, it was a close range and in fact a touching range. So this must have been something that was pushing against his skin or something like that.
It was very close.
It was close. Maybe he was trying to move
something
it.
Something like this was happening.
Yes, and then that's where it was let go.
So Baloyi then asked, the gunshot residue, what would have that resulted from? And Steenkamp said that was from the firearm, the residue that was ignited. Dr. Steenkamp says that the wound is consistent with a contact shot, which suggests the gun was on the deceased's body when it was fired. So it was a close range.
Which is not contested. It's not disputed in that manner that there was that so-called tussle. What is disputed is that that tussle was due to people coming from outside. That is the main dispute here. And then the issue of tussle, it is in line with the whole theory that we are given, in a sense of there was a tussle.
And Steenkamp started to talk about the wound track now. He says the track of this wound passes downwards, backwards, from front to backward, and laterally away from the midline of the body. So it wasn't exactly in the middle. It was away from the midline of the body. Asked to demonstrate, he said that it entered the front of the chest over the breastbone, 1 centimeter to the right of the midline over the breastbone, and right to the level of rib number 3. So he indicated with a pen the direction of the firearm, and it was from the front to the back, away from the midline of the body. And the judge asked for the angle, and Steenkamp said it's an acute angle. Now, this is speculation time. This is speculation time because an acute angle. So he says if it's an acute angle, does that mean that he got shot by a person who was either his height or taller than him?
A bit taller than him. It is in line with what we saw against the door, right?
Yes.
Because the bullet was seemingly pressed, basically pointed down. That means that person indeed he was a bit taller. And then it grazed from the top to the bottom side and then going down to the door, which on a normal day without the whole kung fu issue, it would drill the door and either go out if it still has the momentum or go down. In this case, then it bounced back such that warrant officer? Mhlahlo was able to locate it through her experience behind the jazz or whatsoever that you might call it.
I now would like to exclude that one. I would like to talk more about the one that penetrated Senzo.
And then where would you locate that one?
I'm just thinking about this whole acute angle, because an acute angle is somewhat like this, right?
Yes.
So it could mean that the person was slightly taller, if not the same height.
Or maybe Senzo was a bit bending down, as he said. It could be that because maybe of the fight you are standing and someone is pulling and is not in the normal position. That's a theory of if he was short standing.
Okay, so Steenkamp said along the wound track, the first bullet, it perforates, meaning that it passed through and it made a hole through it. So the sternum is more like the breastbone, right? The sternum on the right at the level of rib 3, and the sternum is the breastbone, showing blackening of the outer aspect that's still consistent with the bullet contact wound, the gunshot residue. It also shows inverted bone fragments over the inner aspects of his bone. Little fragments of the bone are drawn inside the body, and this confirms contact entrance wound. So the bullet perforated the heart sac. Now this broke my heart. If it touched the heart, his chances of survival
were almost impossible,
leaving an irregular laceration, so a tear, a torn wound on the heart. Black granular material and small fragments of bone were noted surrounding this defect in the front part where the heart is located. So Baloyi asked, this finding of this bullet, is it indicative of anything? And Steenkamp said the black granular material is indicative of a contact bullet wound. It's still the gunpowder that was driven into this wound. So in a nutshell, describing the wound track, Steenkamp says that the bullet entered the body in the front on a downward trajectory. So front to back, away from the midline of the body in an acute angle, causing internal injuries and bleeding before it exited on the back. So Steenkamp says that the cause of death was consistent with the bullet wound of the chest involving the heart and lung. It lacerates the heart, resulting in a 3 centimeter by 1 centimeter irregular laceration, extending from the anterior or front wall of the right ventricle or the right chamber of the heart.
Yeah.
So that pushes the blood towards the lungs and partially lacerating or tearing the right coronary artery. And the artery is the part that supplies the heart with muscles. So these tearings also extend to the right atrium artery, to the right ventricle or the blood. This is the place, the ventricle is where the blood from the body accumulates in the right atrium and goes to the right side of the heart where it's pumped to the lungs. So it bruises the upper low part of the right lung, and it also perforates the low lobe of the right lung, leaving a 5 centimeter by 3 centimeter irregular perforating, hemorrhaging. Hemorrhaging means that he was bleeding into the soft tissues of the lung. So it's sort of like an internal bleeding that was happening. Lacerated wound. So this was too much damage, in my opinion. His heart and lungs were literally being teared by this bullet. So at the right inside of the chest as well, the space between the 2 ribs. And then the third wound was an external wound over the back of the chest. So I don't know if Senzo would have survived this, in my opinion, guys. It was a lot. It was too much. So Steenkamp then said no bruises were noticed on the skull, and that there were small bones in the throat were intact. Steenkamp says Meyiwa suffered internal blood loss, and the person bled into chest cavity. The right lung had partially collapsed, and the left lungs were still full of blood. So the right lung had about 300 milliliters, and the left lung had about 500 milliliters, from what I can remember what he said. Whoa! Baloy then asked, is that indicative of anything? And the left lung was injured as a result of blood loss. And Steenkamp said the pancreas was also pale. Baloy asked, is that indicative of anything? And Steenkamp says internal blood loss from the heart as well as the lung area that resulted in the blood flowing into the chest cavity, resulting in the left lung collapsing. So bleeding from the lung and blood flowed into the chest cavity, so meaning that he lost a lot of blood. Yet those who were in the house could only identify spots of blood. They were telling us about spots and drops and.
Look, there is nothing to be looked at the same way as it was before, because they were owning their truth at the time. Now the truth is, it needs to be corroborated. For example, we were told that several times when the question was asked as to say, was he still alive when he arrived at the hospital? And we were told that is true, which could not be corroborated in this case. What we are told is that after the time that it took, which is more than, I would assume, more than an hour, then I mean
there was a lot.
There was no way this guy could have survived, because this thing, it needed a couple of minutes, if anything, seconds were even enough, because maybe he's physically strong, he's a soccer player.
He was
maybe
fit.
Give him a minute or so. So all this, he was cold and hot and whatnot, it sort of puts them out there to say that, I mean, these people, probably there's a possibility now we have to look at with no fear to say that they could have been lying.
Yeah. They could have been transporting him deceased.
As Defoe would put it, and now it is fitting to say, rightly so, that they were taking him to dump him at the hospital. So that what was the reason Tifo put as this?
I forgot.
They were dumping him to shift from the area of the incident.
Or to shift it from the area of the incident.
Yes.
Yes, he did say that.
Yes. So now that story is more and more true. And you remember how Lorraine was throwing shades at Tifo.
Yes.
For saying such things. If this case still has Tifo, we don't know.
No.
We don't know.
You were saying drops and stains near the couch.
And you were saying you were transporting a live person.
Who was getting cold.
Who was getting cold. You were busy
And a
telling him.
live person who
And he was
getting
trying
cold.
to speak. But by the way, there are many people who have therefore told us then lies. Do you remember that friend, the so-called friend who said Senzo was like trying to speak or stuff like that on the Netflix thing? Where is that guy?
We'll talk about him later when we come to that part where we will be deliberating on the windpipe. Yes, in fact, here it is. The windpipe and small airways had a small amount of blood-stained fluid. This is what Steenkamp was saying. And the person could still breathe, moving the blood-stained fluid upward into the airways. So the question I have is that person who said that Senzo was trying to speak and blood was coming out of his mouth.
At the hospital, right?
This means that they were there or could have been there
when that happened.
before Senzo passed
Do you
away.
understand?
And by the looks of things, he did not pass away from the hospital. So
No.
what is he talking about? Or what was he talking about?
What was he trying to achieve, by the way? To go on Netflix and gain a little bit of some fame for lying?
He was saying that Senzo was trying to speak and blood was coming out. Maybe he did saw it, but now we have to ask where.
Where
Because
did
it's
you see
certainly
it?
not at the hospital. Where?
And it certainly would not be a person that drove to actually even go to that spaza shop from, let's say, Roy Mahamutso's party. You couldn't have seen it.
Maybe he could have. Is that what he was trying to tell
Couple
us?
of minutes. That means you were flying, Mos. You were not.
Or it means he was there when the incident happened. Allegedly. If he did see it. Or he just has to admit that he lied.
Do you understand? Unprovoked.
So he needs to pick a side.
Unprovoked, because that's what now we have to do. Unprovoked. You go on national TV, you create a documentary, you tell us that was happening. I never believed that story, by the way. Even on that review of that that episode,
You
I
didn't believe him.
I never believed. You can go back and watch it.
Now
I
he has
never
to tell
believe
us,
it.
where did he see the gasping? Because now I have a lot of questions.
That's how we put it. He was gasping.
You are gasping.
Where? That means that they took this person within 12 minutes, because 12 minutes that man was still lying there,
He was
according to
still
the
lying
nurses.
yes, he was still lying in that house by the looks of things. So the right lung was pale due to blood loss and partially collapsed. So the left lung was congested. The blood vessels were still full of blood. The stomach contained 500 milliliters and partially digested food material, which was rice, a bit of vegetables, matter, and fragments of meat could still be identified. So his last meal was literally cooked by Kelly Khumalo's mother. Inside the bowels were pale, indicating blood loss. So the liver also was pale, indicating blood loss. Pancreas also pale, indicating blood loss. The spleen was wrinkled, indicating blood loss. The kidneys were pale, also indicating blood loss. And in his urinary bladder, and the urethra, it contained 100 milliliters of clear urine. Now, I don't know why he said clear urine. Because why would he specify that the urine was clear? So that's where he threw me off. Unless if he can tell us that he did test the urine. Did he test it?
I don't think so. Based on the stories that are emanating from that house, a lot of things couldn't have been tested because one way or another they were either contaminated or something was being hidden, allegedly.
And I remember some of our callers calling in and telling us that when you've consumed a lot of alcohol, the bleeding is excessive. Once you get injured and you were consuming alcohol, the bleeding is too much. So for him to say clear, as if indicating that he couldn't detect whether the person had drank or not without actually running any tests on that urine or the blood itself, I found it quite strange to include clear. He could have just said 100 milliliters of urine.
Yes.
That clear part threw me off.
Or maybe he didn't do any test at all. He just wanted to fill the report.
And it could have been clear because it was not yet outside of the body, right?
Yes.
It could still be working and digesting. So it can be clear from eyesight or visuals. But for him to specify like that, it kind of threw me off.
As if there was a test done on it.
As if there was a test done on it. It kind of like made me like, okay. So the spinal cord was intact, and Steenkamp said the cause of death you gave is consistent with bullet wound to the chest. And the autopsy was attended by investigative officer Ace Mutwedi from the Provincial Investigative Unit, Warrant Officer Titi Mhlahlo from the Provincial Task Team, and Captain Mangena from the Ballistics, and Lieutenant Mukhati, Warrant Officer Ntini, as well from Ballistics. So he was taken to a hospital where he was certified dead and no treatment was given in the hospital.
Can we then give this Nasha boy his flowers?
Yes.
He was questioned about whether this man could have been, the man said this man was, what do we call it? Unconscious.
Although they tried to make him rebut it.
Yes. And the same guy,
but
Baloyi.
He said what he said. He was unconscious.
So the boy was telling the truth. Sure, his father is proud wherever he is.
They were trying to make him reverse that in the
They tried several times. They tried.
He didn't lie. He saw what he saw.
So if he didn't lie about unconscious, did he lie about where the position where Senzo was? I doubt.
And in my opinion, the kitchen was too clean.
And I was thinking during the days I was hearing this evidence. The first gun from Tabi was
not as loud.
Was not as loud as the second one. The second one sounded closer to them. I was thinking, why would she say? I kept on thinking, that thing bothered me. And then eventually I remember that, Kadam Togo ran. So that would be the sort of the collaboration that could have happened. And so Togo was running and then they were shooting Togo. And then the gun sounded more close.
Because you heard what Sfiso said. The first one was Zandi Kitli, the floor, and then she was grazed. You understand?
Which Sfiso was not in the house, but listen, we only got 2 bullet heads. And that theory also is not far-fetched. It is collaborating with the evidence that was found there in the scene. Unless they are going to come with the magical third one.
So the deceased was shot during an attempted armed robbery, and there was no special investigation that he needed to do in order to determine the cause of death. So he said the cause of death was consistent with a bullet wound to the chest involving the heart and lung. So 2 of his organs, major organs, were teared. So Steenkamp says he does not think the death following the gunshot was instantaneous. He was a fit man, he said. He says that he believed that the deceased could have survived for seconds, minutes, but definitely not hours. Definitely not hours. Seconds, minutes, definitely not hours. So the state asked for Dr. Steenkamp's opinion on where the deceased was when the wound was inflicted, and Steenkamp says that when they do an autopsy, they explain it in a manner that the person is standing. It's called an anatomical position. My apologies, it's an anatomical position. And in reality, this is not so. People, when they are shot, they tend to move around or bend. They move around a lot. So in this instance, he thinks, according to his autopsy findings, that if the weapon was held in a position like this, then the deceased could have moved forward.
Yes.
Or slightly bending down at the waist.
Sorry to disturb you, Emily. Here you are being given instructions to say that clear urine would mean that no injuries on an organ, meaning the kidneys, urine tubes and bladder, whatsoever, and etc. But basically they are saying that it would actually be an indicative of no damage that was done on those organs that carry urine, in a sense.
Also, no damage to the organs that carry the urine.
Which is in consistence with the movement of the bullet.
Which is true.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Shout out. Who is it? Thank you.
It's many people who have come into your aid.
Thank you.
But Dogos, I think, is one of them.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that clarity. And slightly bending down at the waist, if the accused was standing right in front of him, or he could have tried to push the firearm away from his body, pushing it downwards. So, yeah, Steenkamp says that the bullet would have gone through there in milliseconds, and the deceased would have started bleeding immediately. And that was it from the state with regards to their examination. The court adjourned for tea, and the defense counsel came in with their cross-examination. Ramos Sepele was the first one to start.
This is going to be a hard one. You know, as I was writing down like Baloi, I was thinking, it's difficult, man, comprehending these people. And these lawyers, I mean, some of them I doubt they even did biology.
It could have helped to do biology.
Yeah, in this case.
In this
case,
instance.
because we are talking about a lot of things that had to do with someone's
Unzoka,
organs.
a front anterior lobe. The spleen, the ventricle. I can imagine if you didn't do biology here. Your head is spinning. You're like, what is he talking about?
But the question is, if you prepared, you'll probably be able to deal with such. But if you do not have time to prepare, then it's a different story.
Yeah.
And the judge, I heard him throwing shades there.
He took advantage of this one.
No, he was throwing shades towards the end. We prepared. This judge prepares before coming to court. I'm like,
You are not the lawyer, judge. Stop competing with the defense counsel. You are not a lawyer anymore. You are a presiding officer who has to be objective. Okay? Let us stop that. So, Ramosipili asked, a stapling that we see, which I didn't see here, is usually a close wound or rounded wound, is due to the bending and unbent particles. Now, with respect to the travel, like in a contact wound, will we then see the suit rather than the stripling itself? And the suit, they are all the gunpowder residue. The suit is just burned out completely.
That's an answer that you would get from the guy.
Steenkamp.
Yes.
So with respect to clothing worn by the victim, how will they impact your forming of an opinion as to the range? Will we see the barrel mark of the muzzle mark on the body itself when the muzzle is pressed against the body if the body is wearing a vest and a t-shirt, as it is in this case. And Steenkamp said, yes, you could still see that. And now again, asking Ramasipili, there's something that's called a bullet wipe, which is the greasy part of the outside of the bullet, which will reveal itself on the entrance wound. And normally, did you see that with respect to the t-shirt worn by the victim in this case? And Steenkamp said, no, I did not.
What I noticed today as I was jotting these notes, is that these people, sometimes their downfall, to such an extent that they expose now themselves that maybe their English is not as clean as they would like them to be. They ask long questions.
Yeah.
And more so if you are going to ask long questions where...
And to a medical...
yes.
Because the jargon is completely different to that of law.
You end up joining sentence after sentence.
Make the question simple.
And that will take you to actually practice at night and look at these questions and line them properly. So that was the problem.
They didn't have that chance.
No, they don't.
That's why there was an early adjournment on Monday.
Because they had to go prepare.
Had Steenkamp continued, they would have had something to prepare with. And I feel like that was not given to them.
But there are people that you do not need to attack, or you just need to stand up.
No, this one, there was no need to attack him. You just need to make it clear and put it on the record, especially the type of shooting that could have occurred, because you are being told that your accused are placed there and there was a scuffle. Someone said that the hand was held up like this. Someone said the person with the firearm was behind Senzo. Do you understand? That's how they needed to craft their questions, to put it on record that that's not what happened. It was a close range on the chest. And if these other witnesses are saying the intruders, the ones who were in the house are saying that the intruders were scuffling, such so that someone was holding their arm up or pressed against the door. Someone else is saying that he was facing the door and the person with the firearm was behind. The dreadlocks was behind. So that's how they needed to kind of craft their questions. That doctor, do you think in this instance he could have been shot from behind? And then Ramasipili said, and the contact wound that you talked about, there are various contact wounds that will be the loose contact and the angled one, the hard one and the incomplete one. If I understood you correctly, you said this was an angled acute contact wound, correct? And Steenkamp, yes, it was. He said, contact with the right against the skin. That question did not make sense to me.
No, it didn't. It didn't. There was no...
I don't understand what is being asked in that question. I don't want to lie, guys, and pretend I don't. But then Steenkamp answered it and said, yes, it was a hard contact with the right against the skin, but the barrel moved slightly in the direction as he's described. Oh, with respect to when you want to do examination in this case, it was not done for reasons that you said you, the investigating team, ballistics and investigation decided that they should be tested. What was the reason, in fact, for that? And Steenkamp said, I don't think we could see anything. I can't remember. That's all I can't remember. It was not significant to them. Then Ramasipili said, evidence led in this case is that there was a scuffle in the kitchen. At photo 15, that was shown just before the break, and there were about 2 suspects and 6 adults in that space. And
There was a bit of whispering of that took place in that part of like sorry thing. I didn't understand what was happening. I think it was a guy who was supposed to project.
oh, so yeah, we're just moving into photo 15 now. In that space, there were photo 15 is on the screen. Now, evidence is that there was a scuffle in that space among 2 suspects and 6 adult persons that were in the house. Now, I want to touch on this with respect to PR tests or the GSR tests. What is the radius for GSR to attach people that are near when the firearm is
Ballistic
fired
question.
in that space? But this is a ballistic question.
Exactly. Like when you was asking, I was like,
This is a forensic pathologist.
you're not going to get an answer for that.
He worked with the body, the deceased body. Your questions should be around that.
And indeed, he said, unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to tell you that is for the ballistic people.
Which is true. I don't fault him for that because he's not going to be able to answer that. So then Ramosipili said, you also spoke about the searing around, or the burn around the entrance wound. Can you describe that for us? When the firearm is fired and the gunpowder resonated, there is a flame coming out, so that burns the edges. You get the searing effect. So in general, he said, this is Steenkamp, in general, with contact wounds against the clothing, what sort of a mark will contact wound have on a t-shirt if the muzzle is pressed against the skin and the t-shirt? Okay, this was Ramosipili's long
Still
question.
asking, yes. It was, that's why I'm saying the questions is like you finish the question and there's another one.
It was a long
because you feel like you need to clarify yourself.
And Steenkamp said it depends. It could be anything. It could be nothing. It could just be a hole. Or you could see, depending obviously the angle of the firearm and how it was held, that you could see some of the remains of the gunpowder. Now, I'm not sure whether this is a ballistic question or not. If it's a ballistic, you let me know. A witness testified in this court that he observed a firearm. This is Ramosipili. It was used by one of the suspects, that it had a wheel. In your experience and in your training as a pathologist, would you know the type of firearm that's got a wheel?
Again, I'm doing like a judge now. It's like you're asking ballistic questions.
Yeah.
It's people who understand guns who should tell you that.
Well, Steenkamp said, no, I won't. And you have at page 6 of your reports in the specimens retained, and then it says blood and swabs from the fingerprints were taken for DNA analysis, and the serial bag number and the SQE person that you had a specimen to was GSR or PCR test on the hands of the victim himself. Again, Ramosipili.
Basically,
These are
the
for
line
the
of questioning, you should have waited it out.
These are for the
I feel
ballistic.
like when you're going through these questions, you could see if you took time to read this question, you should have waited this thing out for ballistic expert tomorrow, which is today.
Well, Steenkamp said he doesn't know. Now I'm touching on the other aspect. This is Ramosipili, that was raised by my learned colleague from the States, which is the following. A witness has testified in this court that upon hearing that the victim was shot and they'd been informed that it's the person who testified, the last community members, they went to a nearby park to look for the alleged perpetrators, and this is the park. And after plus minus 12 minutes, they went back to the scene, and when they entered through this door just near the hallway, they found the victim lying down unattended. Now, my question is to you that after plus minus 12 minutes of no medical attendance at all on the victim would have survived, would he have suffered? And the judge said, but the doctor just testified that it's not possible that you would have been alive for hours. Okay, all right. Just for clarification, the same persons, when they returned from the park, they tried to sit their victim up and then they saw blood on the back. Is it procedure, or how would that affect the injuries if somebody shot on the chest and people try to sit him up or pick him up like that? So Steenkamp said, in terms of worsen the injuries, it would not do much.
So basically, and you'd see, I think going further, the Mrs. Thingy, I'm not responsible. I think the rest should be fine. All I'm trying to say is that this question is asked. I'm sure I'm still gonna ask it. And
sure
already you are. There's no win. Like the guy is telling you that.
I can answer that.
Even if he said it, he said that. Or even taking that person to hospital
was not
gonna do anything.
Any effect.
Maybe it would have just nothing. Basically, there's no effect on it. And Ramsey was discussing the same question. Do you need to go and revisit that question?
Which after his postmortem, even I have conceded, because the lungs were affected, the heart was affected. So it doesn't really matter whether they would have called an ambulance or would have rushed him immediately with a car. The damage was honestly too much. It wouldn't have made a difference. So that one, the defense needs to let it go for now.
There was basically the issue of canvassing that these people did not follow the right procedure in taking. This man squashed it further to say that I believe that if people are critically ill, they should be rushed to hospital.
Yeah, especially in the province of Gauteng.
That thing only applies if someone, for example, rolls with a car and you don't know which bones are broken. And then you start doing things that you are not supposed to do according to what you are told.
Yes.
It applies more to along those lines. But in this case, someone is shot. Every time I ask this question, I since I've been asking myself, what are we looking to achieve? In this case, I was actually sounding the ways of the judge. What are we looking to achieve with this question in particular?
To blame the people in the house for not doing their best to save.
But is that your position, to blame them?
No.
Your position is to say my client was not there. Your position is to prove that they are lying. It is not to actually go into them not doing the right things in terms of the medical part of it.
Other aspects that they should have really pressed on is this acute issue. To say that, let's say he was standing up, is there a possibility that the person who would have shot him was taller or shorter or in the middle or same height as them or slightly taller than them? They should have focused more on that, because that more or less aligns with the accused and the accusations that have been thrown at them. You want to debunk your client from being there.
Yes.
Don't lose focus. Manje, when you're starting to want to blame
game,
don't care.
It's like you're saying,
They've already shown you that they don't care.
They did shoot, but these ones didn't do their job. They were not supposed to. Like, I don't understand that part.
No, let it go. Shalala, let it go. That one. Let it go. Everyone needs to let it go at this point, especially after this witness. Because they just confirmed something that I was wondering about for 9 years. That how did it happen? And that body has told the story, and Dr. Steenkamp has elaborated the story.
Because as I'm hearing here, that someone is saying that they probably wanted to demonstrate that there was no agents in their own doing. But by you saying that they actually now took the car and rushed the person to hospital, is that then demonstrating that there was no agents, they didn't care?
And Kelly saying that it was her man and she needed to save him. She expressed those words apparently at the scene.
Yes.
And she was driving like a mad woman, as they testified, right? So that totally debunks what they're trying to achieve. So it's time to let it go now.
Yes.
Mnisi.
Hey, read with caution, but continue, Emil.
Now it says, I'm going to try and paint the scenario that was given by the state witnesses who testified. Eyewitnesses who testified about how possibly the incident might have happened in the house. And I would do that with a view to try and give you just a bit of background. Then when we come and speak about your possible findings on the fact that the firearm was most probably fired from an angle of depression, do you understand?
And the guy said, yes.
Yes. According to the eyewitnesses, when there are two versions, but I'll explain them to you. One side of the story is that just like you go for just a bit of a background, according to state witnesses, there are two people who got into the house while they were seated in the sitting room. One for each had a firearm and the other one not in possession of a firearm. So the right there here fire and gave some instructions that wanted money and cell phones. One of the occupants of the house stood up and caused to the gentleman who had a firearm and pushed them aside and then tested out.
The accords, something like that.
Then tested out of the house. That's when the rest of the occupants of the house also stood up, and the commotion that happened to the accosted, the two people, the two guys, we prefer to call them up to the kitchen area. That is generally the beautiful background now. One version from the eyewitnesses who were in the house is that the deceased then was in a castle or was fighting with a person. And if that's not the one of the patients as they were fighting, the person who had a firearm has had his back actually done, as you are looking in for to number 15. In other words,
that's picture number 15, yes.
Picture number 15. So in other words, the person who was in possession of the firearm was leaving one day in the kitchen door after the deceased was facing him. Do you follow now? Hi, Nisi, this is a long...
This was a long essay question. So basically what he was trying to say
Please
is
summarize.
what he was trying to say is that the person was facing the door.
Mm-hmm.
And when the gun went off, would it agree with the whole what is it this pathologist was doing, the test that he has done?
Yes.
Would you say that it made sense that the shooter was in front of Senzo, who was facing the door, and then the guy said no. The theories that were put, the theories that these people have been putting, people in the house.
Also,
the guy
Nisi
said,
was literally using those
theories. And then
good strategy.
I liked it. And the second one was when he was trying to say that, okay, the other theory is that Senzo was facing inside now the house, and then the person who probably shot Senzo was actually behind. Would you agree with that theory? And the guy said no. Those were two questions that he was asking. The theories that he put on these guys are the theories that have been canvassed in that court for so long.
For so long.
Basically, all of them, the guy said they don't make sense.
And that's
so
all
even the
need.
issue of gun, of a bullet being on top of that, it does not make sense.
Being on top of the cupboard.
Yes.
The one that was found by Warrant Officer Mhlahlo.
Yes.
In the morning.
Yes.
After Mtetwa and his partner as well as Musia
try to look for it. Try to look for that. They didn't find it. So Mnisi's approach was clear, simple as that. Debunk using the expert, debunk the theory of where this person was shot and how he was shot, according to what they are saying in the house. It just didn't materialize according to the expert.
I like that.
It was just two questions. Nothing much. They were long. They were an essay. Somehow you'd get lost. But
yeah,
you get
I was
lost.
Confused.
But most of what he was trying to say is that those theories should not stand. And he did that successfully. And he sat down. Nothing else.
Nothing
And
more.
he even said, I had prepared more questions, but I've realized that they are for ballistic people. And then he sat down. Then there was Ngumalo.
I think he learned from listening to how Ramasipili's cross-examination went left because he included ballistic questions. Now, I don't know which part this one is, but he says you further testify about the blackening of the wound. You're testifying about the wound track, that it was from the front to the back, but towards lower side of the back.
Yes.
And he said, yes, from the front to the back and downwards, away and away from the middle line. Could that have been caused by the fact that the shooter was taller than the deceased? Now, this is what I'm talking about. And he said, yes. In the lay's term, DR, if I understand, the gun was shot wound that you examined. Was it fatal wound or was it? And he said it was a fatal wound. So before we go deeper into Mshololo, can you please cover Ngumalo for us?
I'm trying to find Ngumalo's questions here.
Please find Ngumalo's cross-examination so that we go through it quickly.
Yeah, I'm trying to find them.
Okay, let me continue here. You'll let me know once you found it.
Yeah, continue.
And he says, yes, I do understand that this. Just clarify this for me. Would it have made a difference had the deceased been transported in a stretcher or then being transported in private car to the hospital? And if it was a fatal wound and he would have survived a few seconds to minutes, I don't think so, said Steenkamp. So I think if you are the situation with the critical ill patient, you should try and get him to the hospital. But that's my opinion. I'm not a clinician. I'm a pathologist. Sure, it's time to let it go.
Yeah,
It's
that
time
issue
to let
of
this issue-
they were not supposed to transport them. It's time to let
It's
it go.
time to let it go. It's a wrap. It's a wrap after the pathologist told you the details of what had happened. This man did not have much time. He wasn't lying there for hours and hours alive. It was an instantaneous shot. So, minutes, seconds. That's how long he was alive after that shot went through. So, the hours afterwards, it's time to let them go now. That theory. So from the qualifications that you have testified about in this court that you obtained in 1976, does it include the ballistic care evidence? And then Steenkamp said, I've done ballistics. No.
No, he has
I've
not
never
done.
done
Yeah, he was
ballistics.
asking if he had a qualification. In his qualification, did it include ballistic or something? So basically, what we are gathering in this case is that this case is done, guys. I don't know. We can go as deeper as we want to, but this case is literally done. From these testimonies and these aspects coming in, clearly it's done. It's time for 375 if it still exists.
Yeah, it's time for 375. I was telling somebody that today that, you know what, it's a wrap. If the doctor is saying that, then it's a wrap, okay? So should I continue with Mshololo?
Yeah,
You're
continue with Mshololo.
So he further testified about the blackening on the wound track. You remember, Doc, and the doctor said, yes, that's correct. Did you take any samples along the blackening, or did you take any samples to the laboratory in order to determine whether what type of blackening you saw, whether it was because of the powder or it was because of the cloth or any other thing? And the doctor, Steenkamp, said, no, I did not. If that was not done, asking Mshololo, how do we know what type of the blackening was there on the gunshot wound if it was not taken for examination? Well, Steenkamp said, well, that's the usual that we do. We don't do much. Others usually don't send those blood-stained suits and debris for examination unless we want to do it. We not sure that it is instance, the startling, for instance, then you would take histology. He says, I've never heard people taking from a wound the blackening to confirm your observation that should have assisted to confirm what you have observed on the wound. And he said, not really, unless I was doubtful as to what else it could be. And I don't know much else it can be. So just one last question, doctor. I know you have answered this question, but I also want to get it from you that you said at the time when the deceased was shot, from your observations, it means that you would have been facing inside the house. I'm not sure whether you still remember that picture where the door was shown, which is picture number 15. And Steenkamp said yes. And Mshololo said, from your observation then, it would mean that the deceased was shot when he was facing inside the house, and not from my observation, saying Steenkamp. So not from his observation. So he says, no, I mean from, if I consider the fact that there might be a bullet in the door or something, then that would make sense. But if it were shot from the other side, then there must have been a bullet towards the house. And that is from your observation. That's the exit wound. Was it in front? No, sorry. The entrance wound, was it in front? And Steenkamp, yes, that's correct. And that was a wrap up with Advocate Mshololo.
Yeah, I think mostly, Emily, we should just continue and finish
the re-examination.
Yeah, it was one. Was it one question?
Okay, maybe just one aspect. This is Baloi now. Maybe just one aspect, doctor. You were asked by counsel for accused number 4 about the possibility of blood dripping from the kitchen into the sitting room. You testified that your findings was that the blood would be squirting from the wound. Now, the question is, after how long would the judge never said that?
The judge interfered.
What did the judge say here?
He never said, the doctor never said that. He basically was saying that the doctor never said the blood was squirting.
Okay.
And he corrected Baloi, and then Baloi corrected the question again. He asked the question.
Then he said, yes, let me rephrase it. After how long would the blood start squirting from the wound? And the Steenkamp said the blood only squirted if there's an artery involved. Yes. So if you cut your artery, like your wrist artery, and the blood squirts out, and you see this, the blood people or the ballistic people can probably tell better about the squirt that is there, but there was no artery involved here. There was not an externally. All this was internally, so the blood was squirting, but internally.
So that's like bleeding inside.
Other thing you want to add, doctor? And the doctor said, no, thank you, my lord. So what was the point of Baloi's question?
It was to debunk the Ngumalo's question of saying that there must have been a blood squirting around when Senzo was moving. If indeed Senzo moved to the sitting room.
All right.
So that was that was basically what he was trying to debunk, to say that there was no squirting here because there was no artery that was harmed.
Okay.
So any bleeding that was happening internally.
All right. So I think we can open the lines now. Guys, share your opinions about what happened today. I was happy with Dr. Steenkamp's testimony. It kind of gave a picture of what happened to Senzo, especially this last moment. So you guys can call in and share your opinions.
And at least it sort of kills that theory of he could have seen a lot of things happening.
Yeah, because it was worrying a lot of people that
he could have been lying there looking at these people saying things about him. Planning, if there was indeed planning that happened there.
Because according to Sfiso, there was a wish.
So basically, what we get at in simple terms today is that this man, within a couple of minutes, let's say 2 minutes or so, from Togo's jumping to neighbors and coming back, he was gone.
Yeah. And going back to Ntabi saying hearing outside or closer. I'm trying to speculate here, and I'm like, okay, fighting with Zandi, and you are under the impression that Mtogo is the one who's busy with your girlfriend, and then you go to him, but then Senzo's like, no, that's my friend, and then Mtogo runs. Oh, it's a mess. You wish. Like, you can see it. It's like it can't stop playing in my head if that was the scenario, if that is what happened. He jumps over the wall, and Ntabiseng says, I'm hearing two shots.
Let's
or
take
a
the
shot
first
closer.
Zanzelo.
Sound?
Yes, how are you?
Yes, I like the question on by Numalo, and then the judge intervenes, and when he intervenes on the question of the blood spatter from the kitchen, who was the dining room, and then he intervenes and says, no, the shirt can actually quench the blood through the trouser, and then he stops. Numalo stops and said, okay, let me go to another point.
He testified.
When
He
that
testified.
Yes, he testified. He's not supposed to do that, actually. He was not supposed to do that. And then this guy, Numalo, intelligent, so he comes in and says, the next guy walks in and he says, this guy was lying there. And no one was attending to him. He was lying on the passage, and even he showed the sketch draft. The draft of the sketch of the house on the passage. He says he was lying there with his body. He was looking up, down. He is back on down, meaning that the blood that dropped. There should be stains, these small stains or something on the floor.
Yes.
Yeah. And then that's how actually that goes on the record to say there should have been stains from the kitchen towards the what do you call it, the lounge where the sofa. There was nothing. There was nothing. So, well, a judge is clever, but he tries to get more information by pressing, and then later on goes to the other side and says, okay, he tries to equal it later. He's not biased necessarily. He's just trying to balance things out by getting more information. Thank you, Fabiola.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling in and sharing your insight.
Yeah, I think today we need biology people. Thank you.
And forensic analysts and pathologists and lab people specifically who work with such incidences.
Yeah.
They could really help us out.
So this theory of Togo running away from Longwe, would you say it has a bit of merits, allegedly?
In my opinion, I see it playing in my head that way. I see it.
So this man probably jumped the wall.
Yeah, and then as that he had ran away, and that's when Senzo perhaps was fighting for the gun, allegedly. Because it's his friend. He loved his friends.
My question is, I mean, these people came, Emily. Some of them have come to testify, and then you see these things being said like this, like the fact that we are told now that Senzo was long gone. How do you feel? You wanted us to believe your truth, like Lorraine.
He was getting cold in the car. I was trying to talk to him. It's Senzo, all of that story. I'm actually upset. I'm not okay.
It is. That's when you say that If 375 was to be open, then I think most of us are saying that, or are thinking that justice will be properly served. And that is my theory. That is my assumption, and I'm alleging.
So Steenkamp said that it is possible that the person who shot in the way that Senzo Meyiwa was shot could have moved around a little. And this was a response to Ngumalo's question about Meyiwa being shot in the kitchen and falling in the dining room.
Yes, he had a bit of time to move around.
Insists that we are talking here about seconds to a few minutes between the time Meyiwa was shot and his death. Steenkamp said that where Senzo Meyiwa laid on his back, as testified by Kaya Ngache, there would have been blood on the floor.
Yes.
Just as you would be wearing something that is wet and you lie on the floor. I'm happy about that. Not this nonsense of stains. Blood stains, and because his underpants were soaked in blood. The back of his t-shirt and vest had blood. So you can't tell us that there were drops. Mapir, you need to tell us.
It just doesn't make sense, man.
You need to tell. So those people need to explain what happened to Senzo's blood. Because here's a theory here, and it makes sense. It honestly makes sense what Steenkamp was saying under cross-examination with Ngumalo. You know? And Ngumalo was asking based on the version of possible scene tampering. And then he concluded his cross-examination. And Ngumalo hit the jugular here.
Zanzi, hello?
Hey, how you doing?
Hi.
Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you for
How
calling.
you doing, Emily? How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. No problem.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Thanks, everybody. I just think this case is so the way all the stuff is coming out, and I always said that it's unraveling itself, that these defendants, all they have to do is show up. Now, the scenario that I'm seeing is that when they say the shooter was taller than Senzo, personally, I don't think that's relevant. I think there's a scenario in which the two are tussling or scuffling or whatever, fighting on the floor, and there was an angle whereas, Senzo is bigger and stronger, so he probably has the upper hand, and there's an angle where Longway pulls out his revolver, he shoots Senzo at a close range, and Tokozis gets frightened and gets the hell out of Dodge. And then you have to understand with this pathologist, I believe he was saying something as black marks from the wound. Now, I'm not a gangster or anything like that, but I know a little something about guns. First of all, a close range shot from a long range shot, right? Most contact, I believe, over time, the wound will turn white on a dead body or something like that. You know what I mean? But a close range shot, the blackening would probably come from burning. So that was me in the comments. And I'm saying that a close range shot, any gun, but particularly a revolver, could leave a burn. And like someone in the comments said, they looked it up. It also leave a wider circumference, a wider bullet hole. You know what I mean? So I think there was. Yeah, like the wrestling on the ground, and then this guy pulled out the thing and it ran. I think that's the real scenario. So I'm not getting angry. I know everyone's getting pissed off because everyone's lying and the truth is just telling itself, right? But that should make you more energized. I'm telling you, I'm sad for the family. I'm pissed off that justice is so slow. However, the fact that it's coming out this way, every time the SABC and all these other people report something that is a contradiction to the state, you should be happy, because this is something that the judge, no fool can just, give the state any case they want, you see. So, and so that was the main thing about that. I just think that they have to look more closely at the scenario of since they have somebody, you probably won't find somebody at the hospital to say, oh, this was time of death and whatnot, because they're going to tell you these people brought a dead body to the hospital now. They're not, the state is not looking for people. Right. So they got the pathologist. This is the confirmation that we all needed, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Most
It was just about that, you know? Yeah. And if you have time, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
You can go ahead.
Okay. No, I was just gonna say, if you ever have time for it, I left you guys a comment about some other trial elsewhere. If you wanted to talk about that, if you ever heard about any of those things, I didn't want to bring it up now to distract the situation, but
Okay.
yeah, I left you
Did
the
you
comments
send it?
about.
Did you
Yeah.
send it to us on WhatsApp?
Oh. Yeah, I sent it wasn't a voice note, it was text. There's a double murder trial in the U.S., YNW Melly, and I was just putting to you guys that there's so many similarities between this trial and that one. And the witnesses and the testimonies and the contradictions and whatnot. And yeah, I'll just leave that to you if anybody's interested. But if you guys ever covered that, I don't see many people on your side covering that case.
Yeah.
So it starts up again at the end of the year. So I don't know, just thought so. But yeah, anyway, the important thing is justice for Senzo, and it's gonna happen. And you know, and as long as we have defense that are worth their salt and they can corroborate a good attack against, you know, the state and everything below. He's just all these notes and whatnot. He's just calling people to stretch time, you see. But with every witness that he calls, with every witness, it's he's taking hit after hit after hit, and we just hope this judge, that with all his interference and his jokes and whatnot, I just hope, if you're getting angry, I can understand, because there's a part of you feels like he's going to entertain the state's nonsense, but there's too much not to dismiss this case or mistrial or whatever. This is too much. So,
yes.
So yeah, let me give somebody a chance. So thank you for hearing me.
No, thank you, man. Look out for this case that you talked about.
Yes,
Sure.
definitely.
Cheers.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, now I see.
Yeah, I think also that people who are good with guns,
They should enlighten us. The issue,
wound, because I heard him say that it was oval shaped.
I heard when I asked this other guy who's a policeman, he said the bullets of a revolver is different. Mzansi, hello.
Hey, Mr. Anonymous Element, how are you?
Hi.
Are you good, man? How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay, man. I'm a little bit confused, man. I need your help here.
Yes.
Before the novel, they showed us where the door was damaged. I can't remember exactly where it was damaged.
Yes.
Was it up? Was it up?
I mean, do you remember that picture? Was it? It was a bit down. The second door. It was.
That door in itself is not too tall. So it's not like it's a big door, or it was maybe like 8 meters tall.
But was it shot a bit down?
No, it was shot a little bit up.
It was up. I think I remember it was up.
A little bit
so,
up.
Yeah, here's your confirmation.
So according to the theory of Mr. Spain, if it was shot in an angle where it was not horizontally, so it becomes impossible that the bullet that hit Senzo, the one that hit the door.
Oh, you've got a I agree
it
with
becomes impossible. It becomes impossible. And if that is not the bullet that shot Senzo, if there is a third bullet, as Ms. Popola has said, it should have went through outside the door, because it was not blocked by anything.
Yes.
And the theory that they were giving us is that it hit Senzo, it came out and it hit the door, because it was not having much pressure to go outside. That's why it came back inside the house. So, but according to Mr. Spain, it can't be that bullet that shot Senzo, because it was not horizontal. Yeah.
No, I get your point.
Meaning, yes, I was confused the whole day, and this is the question I wanted the to ask, so that we can get to be clarified here. If there's a third shot, then it will make sense for the blade. Maybe that's the one that will fell on top of the thing.
Yeah, no, I get you. You are right.
But still, it should have went out because it was never blocked by anything. So it was gonna penetrate and go outside.
Mm-hmm. And the judge would interject you though to say who said. But you are correct.
Yeah. This was my comment. I was confused the whole day, and I could not make sense of this whole thing.
Yeah, no, you are right because the guy was even explaining that it from the top to down.
Yes, top down. Yes.
I get where you're coming from.
As I was watching the case, sorry to take you out of subject, I saw Miss Magudumane on her bail application crying. I saw crocodile tears.
I heard that they were counting all the monies.
I have no sympathy for that woman. Many people suffered because he even claimed the bodies, he throw them in the dam and all these things. Sorry to take you out of subject.
No, it's cool, man. Thank you. We cover both.
Thanks,
Cheers,
I need to see that. I need to see that because I heard that they were counting all the monies, all the fraud, all the millions and
I also heard that
all
is
the
playing
millions.
Yeah,
and
but
billions.
not to move away from this case, we'll touch on that at some point.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a point there, Emil, of that bullet.
Yes.
Grazed from the top, from the upper part of the chest, going downwards to the door. So it should have been shot closer to that handle or something like that.
Yes, to the door handle, not up.
Not up. Yes, indeed. Good morning, guys. Emily and Big Brother, I love you guys. Keep up the good work. After yesterday's testimony, it's clear that these people who were in the house must be arrested. Finish.
That's how I felt after Steen.
I wish it was that easier.
I felt like it's a rap, guys. Let's ask these people in the house. They need to tell who it is. Who killed
okay,
Senzo.
Emily, let's say now you open 375. Aren't you gonna need a bullet? You're gonna need a confession only?
I need all of them to be held accountable for dragging for so long. Defeating the ends of justice. Someone should be charged for cleaning that house. Someone needs to be charged for interfering with the crime scene.
Ballistic people
At
running
this point,
around
it's not just
and fetching.
It's not just the person who pulled the trigger. It's all of them for dragging this case for so long, lying and doing all of these shenanigans. They were not necessary, honestly speaking. The person who did the crime could have probably been out on parole by now.
Yes.
You would have forgotten. But because they just needed to not have this person take accountability, we are in this mess. And everyone who was assisting in that process needs to be charged.
And everyone who has lied in that process.
375 is no longer about who pulled the trigger anymore. It's about all of these people in this cover-up.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
If there's something like that, then all of them should go
all of them.
So
all of them should be charged. Everyone should have multiple charges if they apply.
Who's this guy who was ready to actually prosecute on 375? I forgot his name.
Isn't it
the prosecutor?
Warrant officer, the one who was with Buthelezi. Warrant officer, guys, remind me.
He was ready to prosecute. He went to jail for that.
Everyone, even the police who have been assisting, allegedly, Nabo. 375 is about that. That's the real justice. That's where it's at. Because there was no need for us to be here right now, for the Meyiwa family to have to grieve for so long.
They said it's warrant officer Makubo.
Yes.
And then there was an advocate who was also there, ready to Nzako. So we could be sitting with Nzako here dealing with things,
With
but we are
375.
stuck with Baloyi.
All this corruption and all of this
Allegedly,
interference. Allegedly, but it's there and it's frustrating to look at it. It's so frustrating.
We are dealing with Baloyi here. My lord, perhaps we agreed with my learned colleagues that since we're dealing with the experts, we should have...
No, what has happened here is a true injustice, in my opinion. It's not fair on the family. They've been grieving for Senzo for 9 years now.
Can you imagine? And then not only grieving, stones were thrown.
Being accused, being cast out at, being abused in the media,
Senzo's father passed
they've
away.
never really moved on. And remember the last scenes before he got sick. He honestly was heartbroken. He was heartbroken. Nothing he did seemed to be working.
The
He went
noise
to
and
the
everything.
media.
He did everything. It never worked.
So we can't forget that and be like, oh, it's normal for people who don't have funds to be abused like this. No.
And Isaiah, thank you for the donation, man. We saw it.
Thank you. But still, hi, guys.
It just doesn't make sense.
This is torture. Did you see? I'm even surprised that Fiso is still sane after going through all of this. Most people would lose their minds.
Yeah, what we see here, I mean, honestly speaking, if I had power, I would intervene. I mean,
It's not even funny anymore. Like, we're not enjoying it. It's not an enjoyment to us. Even deliberate things, because we really want to believe that all of these allegations did not have, but it's clear. It's clear as day that, you know what? We are in trouble. We are in trouble.
can you imagine you sleep, even with Ndanzi? I will talk for Ndanzi in this case. Can you imagine you sleep without any damage or anything done wrong? You wake up with such a big case in front of your door. Not just any case, not a Norox, I stole a Norox and whatnot case. You wake up with a case that not even your 2000 under the bed would solve.
Hi, guys. It doesn't feel right.
And to think that someone read these two dockets, 375 and then read 636, and then that person was sitting down, was like, yeah, see, 636 is the one.
Is the one.
This one is a junior, this one. No, this one is wrong. Can't be the people who were in the house. Put it aside. We'll deal with this one if 636 fails.
We
Who
need to
is
do
that
this
person?
375.
Who is that person who's capable of reading a case with so much
We need 375.
loopholes
I'm over
and still
636.
give it a chance over 375?
I'm over 36.
Like, you take a decision, you sit down, what do you do? You sit down with the investigating office,
My value.
and then they say, no, listen, we're here we are moving here. There's a chance here, we are arresting here.
We still have no link to accused number 4.
Except dreadlocks.
Is that for accused number 3?
Hey, accused number 3.
Now-
Accused number 4 is there laughing. He's not even sure where he could be saving his time wherever he's supposed to be.
It's a mess.
And then there comes these experts with cell phone linking that do
With
not
no
have
conversations.
no conversation or whatsoever. We sit down here, we crack our heads as if something is serious.
As
I
if
mean,
something
honestly.
is coming, as if I keep waiting. I'm like, what is coming? Even now with the forensic pathologist, what I got literally is how Senzo actually passed on. That's it. I wasn't expecting him to come here and crack this case. The ballistic expert today,
Will
I can
come,
only imagine.
will come with a dead bullet.
I can only imagine.
Look, basically, we're at the stage where everything that comes with the states.
And another thing is, what is the point of even calling a ballistic expert without the bullet that ended Senzo's life?
Do you understand?
Where is that bullet?
Everything is there. The pistol is there, the so-called pistol.
I was hoping Mr. Steenkamp would say the body came with this bullet. None of that was mentioned.
I'm worried, Emily. The level of thinking, this is intelligent
He just
issues.
walked on a body that had a hole.
And that's it.
No mention of the bullet. Was it stuck? Did it go in and out? Did they
Our
show
so-called
it to you?
experts.
Did the ballistic investigators show you the bullet?
Our so-called experts.
So that you can determine whether that wound was caused by that bullet?
Can you imagine?
None of that was mentioned. So why are we still continuing with 636? Why? This is torture.
An expert will come, my lord, and testify about that. What? What expect? They come angry.
In defensive. Ballistic.
Zanzi, hello?
We must expect
no.
that. Hi.
Hi, sir. How are you?
How's it, guys?
All good, man.
Yeah. I'm glad now because of there's no turning back from the state side.
Mm.
Because if you can see, all those people that they called, they've got nothing.
Mm.
And many things are being rebuilt or this is a setup. Because, guys, if they think it was like a robbery gone wrong, we couldn't be here by now.
Mm.
It maybe take a year to arrest these people. And each and every evidence that we're going to be found there, it was going to be linked to the robbers.
Mm.
You understand?
Mm.
But now, because they had nothing, now they waited for 2014 until 2020 to arrest this guy and now try to link everything to this guy.
Yeah.
Thinking that it's gonna sail smooth and then they're gonna get away with it. Not knowing that there will be some contradiction. But now all those contradictions now are leading to what? Are leading to showing that there is something wrong that happened. There is some they tampered with the evidence and all those things. Corruption from the police. So now the state is in a mess whereby all they are thinking is they wish they can turn their hands of time and start all over again. But there's no going back. Now for tomorrow you'll see this ballistic. We're gonna hear stories tomorrow. We go and we still have to have the uncle. We still have to have the next door neighbor with Mapiri.
Mapiri.
Hell is still coming. Hell is still coming. So, yeah, I'm happy we are here because of the five guys that are there. If they had something, man, guys, they were supposed to. The two guys or whatever, they were supposed to be in jail by now. They were supposed to be in jail. Yeah, it's simple. They were supposed to be in jail. Fingerprints, ballistic, the bullet, everything. Even the people inside, they will be able to identify those guys. What do you call the parade? So, look, guys, I feel for the Senzo Meyiwa, I feel for them. But I'm glad that we're going somewhere and we're going to finally get this through. You saw the judge from the testimony of the experience. He's quiet. He's quiet. You see, he can't defend the state. He can't. Yeah, he can't. Because now everything is there now on a silver plate. From that guy of the police story from the storeroom. And then today's testimony now about the pathologist. He can't say anything. He's been breaking all along, taking the defense and everything. But now, today and yesterday, he's calm, he's quiet. No? So I'm waiting for today, ballistic. He's still gonna hear many things to come. Guys, thank you very much. I watch you each and every night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the
you.
good.
Thank you.
Hey, Kosi, I'm imagining the ballistic person today, the way they are going to start. I'm anticipating Mhlahlo 2.0, in my opinion.
So, if they cannot answer questions, they get emotional.
That's what I'm sensing. It's gonna be something else, that testimony. I need to be attentive. I need to really be attentive on that one because a lot is going on.
But there's basically nothing to look forward to in this case. To be honest, if we were to be honest, and if we were moving in the right direction as a country, there's nothing to look forward to in this case.
You know, when Sviso
Zanzielo?
mentioned, hello.
Oh, hey guys, we forgot to discuss the issue of Shasho during the postmortem of this doctor, kind of. They received the swabs from the nails of Senzo. The group, they received that swab. So we forgot to ask people dwell on that because they received those swabs and Shasho was there. Not acute Shasho, that lady. Was a lady.
Yes. She was there.
Here we are.
You are on her case. I'm giving.
Yeah,
She was there. We need to be careful because those swabs, they talk about the swabs on the nails. They talk about who was grabbing. If you are grabbing someone, maybe on the hair, on the skin, they remain on the nails. So those we need to know what that DNA was about.
And where is it?
Where is it? What the results are?
Mhlahlo is angry. We won't give you that.
We need to know. Yeah, but anyway, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Where are the results
Mhlahlo,
of the
Mhlekazi.
nails?
Andazi ukuba nizawuphendula nithini.
Mhlekazi. Where's that DNA
So
on
the
nail?
allegations that that person, that Fizz was putting, that person who got that bullet came with that bullet, are they far-fetched?
The way she was so defensive. Aye.
And then now we're told that there were things that were taken for DNA,
the
and
nails.
they are not here. Where are they?
Mhlahlo, where are
This
they?
person has come to testify and is gone now.
Where are they? This person was in a scuffle. This person was allegedly in a fight. Where is the DNA of the nails? Mhlahlo, the one you collected. Where are the results?
See, this
And
thing.
I'm even thinking of the part of Sfiso where he was saying that there was a judge who, when they had taken a person by the name of April to make a confession and say that they were the ones who ended Senzo's life, and the judge was like, stop wasting my time. These lies in this court.
Yes, that's what I
Many
was about to
judges-
ask.
we-
When
what
does a
is
judge
just-
now decide to do exactly that?
Because now we're being stretched and they are hoping.
The judge is reading. The judge is reading. Is busy reading. Yeah, instead of
This is
throwing
not
this thing
going-
out.
Anyway.
I'm disgusted by Dumel and Togo for not standing up for a person they call a friend. Very sad indeed. If indeed, worse, if he was protecting Togo. Emily, you are right by saying everyone must be arrested. That includes Balo himself, coach, allegedly, all these witnesses. Right, yeah. It's emotions.
It is
It's
emotions.
allegedly.
But allegedly, Balo is stressing me as well. Balo is stressing me.
And just relax there. Yeah.
I don't know how the defense attorneys do it and cope.
Yes, indeed, my lord. We shall give you time to
It's like we'll
to
give
read
you-
your books.
We'll give you more reading material. It's like a teacher's pet. I would be so annoyed. I'd be like,
And this tendency of a judge to come and say, seriously. At some point, someone must ask, why are you saying serious? Why are you irritated? We're not kids. Mzansi, hello?
Sanibona njani?
Sikhona njani?
Ngicela ukunibingelela emele nawo umntana.
Yebo.
hi.
Mina ngokwami ukubona inkinga ine-country esikuyo la kahle kahle.
Mhm.
It's like kufuneka kulungiswe into eningi. Ma uthi abuka la, nginokubuka le show le channel u-ID lapha unokuveza ama-cases lapha noma uthi abuka kwamanye amazwe ama-investigator o-pathology bakhona mabefika kwezokuchaza bachaza everything from start to finish. Even ngisho ukudla ukuthi lokudla kudliwe nini kuyisikhathi esingakanani lo muntu ngabe usitshelile lokho ukuthi-ke isikhathi agcina ukuthi ukudla
To the digestion. Exactly.
utshwala utholile egazini bebungakanani. But angizochaza nje ukuthi-ke inhlamvu yangenela ngaphombeni yaphuma ngemuva bese only thing wasinawo nakhona kanayo isho ukuthi-ke umuntu ayekade edubula waye kuyiphi iposition nomuntu usenzo waye kuyiphi iposition akanayo isho yaleyo.
Yeah.
Aka-create yena uma efika lapha ezo-creator khona lokho-njani engangayibona banalabo ngathi onodoli aba-check-a ngabo ukuthi-ke if umuntu kuthiwa mhlawumbe uyadubuleka la njengalo igazi nje uma befuna uku-check-a igazi ukuthi lenze njani because I believe ukuthi igazi ngeke ukuthi uma udutshulwe bese kungabe kusaba kukhona igazi elilokhunjani elizophuma mhlawumbe lithela amakhabethe or somewhere la usuke udutshulelwe khona ngoba even ngishawa ngisana leyo into leyo iyenzeka. Doesn't mean ukuthi kufanele izecontre igazi izecontele phansi but khona ezinye indawo la khona igazi kufanele ibe khona endlini ekufanele amaphoyisa alibona khona aphathe lutho.
Right. Yeah, no, we hear you.
Siyabonga kodwa.
Asibonge. Can you please summarize?
Ngokusipha i-information eningi kade singayazi.
Yeah, siyabonga.
Asibonge.
Yeah. So in this case, I think the caller was trying to say that this is a wrong country because if you compare with other countries, as you watch these crimes and what channels, there the level of demonstrating in terms of how even the blood would spread if this was a bullet and this was a pistol and this the distance, they would be more explained. Like, let me say something like Oscar Pistorius type of a situation. It's like we were in a different country during Oscar Pistorius time. This is no longer the same country. It's no longer South Africa. Like, it's like we borrowed all these things. We probably have these things to demonstrate. But people come here, maybe some of them, they come with
Mhlambe bayasinyatha basithathela kancane. They are just undermining
the level of thinking.
The people of color. Maybe we are not that important.
So there they were. It's like they were showcasing the things they have.
Because I remember the
And then
Oscar
all of a
Pistorius
sudden they
trial,
disappeared.
A lot was happening. There was even stages. They would even stage They'd even ask him to walk and demonstrate how he was walking towards the bathroom door before.
It's that
And
with
what
this
was
thing
happening?
of accepting that people in such a big case should not be shown on television. It just started there.
Got 375, none of that nonsense. The media needs to fight. None of that nonsense must take place with 375.
Yeah,
if
we
it
must
goes
see.
trial.
We
want
must
to
see
their body
what
language.
happens if you do crime.
We want to see, and we want to see the consequences of lying under oath if they ever did such.
Yeah, we
allegedly.
want to see it demonstrated
We
properly.
want to see it. Because how else are people going to stop doing this to other people and knowing that they're not going to get consequences for any of the wrongdoings that they do? You know, when you do something as awful to another human being, you must pay the consequences and you must be publicly shamed so that the others who are planning on doing the same thing are thinking that, I don't want to end up like this person. So how is that supposed to happen? How is it supposed to have a lawful country where we respect each other and respect each other, we treat each other right?
They tell us about the mighty law that does not bite when it's supposed to. Hey, bro, you got right there. What type of friends? Okay, none of Senzo's friends, including his ex, want justice. It's so bad. It's like the actual wanted him gone.
Hey, it's awful.
It's awful.
It's awful.
It's not understandable.
What have you got to lose by just sitting on that stand and telling the truth?
Yes, people are even saying Oscar Pistorius had an entire channel dedicated. It's
And
like,
there were even lawyers who would deliberate after, what happened?
where is those things?
What happened? Now we're left to figure it out ourselves.
Now we're
and to-
left with SAPC 1. SAPC. You know what SAPC does? They come back when the case is in the mid of discussion.
Where?
You lose a lot of things.
After 15 minutes, you lost the beginning of the conversation. How did
and
this
then,
conversation
and then
start?
this is where I don't. And then they argue that they must not open the mics when we are on breaks and whatnot.
Why?
Look at what happens. That thing actually makes us lose some information.
Yes, it does.
They come back somewhere somehow. Hey, these people are already discussing this thing.
You are talking about textbooks. You are talking about referrals. You're talking about... Now, the judge was throwing shade towards the end that you guys don't prepare. And now he prepares. He reads. He was throwing shade with the referral of the 5 textbooks
Those are
at
your
the
battles.
beginning.
Those are your battles, not the battles against the people that want to watch the case. Stop that thing.
There must be transparency.
You came running, took the case, right?
It's a public figure.
It's a public
you
figure.
You knew exactly what you were
You
signing
knew
up
what
for.
you were, and then all of a sudden
You want privacy.
you are working closer to your colleagues, Leonard
And
colleagues.
we all know what happens in these closed cases where not a lot of people are allowed. We know the shenanigans that happen in there. We know. So now you're trying to bring that into a trial that's huge, that's of public interest. You're trying to bring those tendencies of the small magistrates' courts into a case that the whole country, the whole world wants to know about. Why did you take it? You should have just continued with your magistrate court appearances and leave a big trial alone because you don't want to be exposed to the media.
If you come here, you are here to showcase yourself. That's it.
Because we are losing a lot of nitty-gritties because of these requests that you have made.
And we are not experts, but we can listen and tell when things are going left. You are missing the plot here, without any degree whatsoever of that. Of that note.
No. 375. None of this should be entertained. It's enough now.
So basically, the end of this, we need 375.
375. La. I think we're done.
We're done.
636. Even the ballistic, I'm not sure of something. He needs to give us something.
You know
He
my
needs to
worry.
give us a link. He needs to give us something.
You know what my worry
Otherwise,
is.
magayeki.
You know what my worry is. After this whole situation that we are watching unfold here comes a person with the DNA of the people who are arrested. What should you do?
Where did you find it? Number one.
Because they are arrested, they are within their thinking. They can do anything. It's like when you are there, they are in control of these people. They are in control of you.
Then where would they plant it?
Yeah, they would say this is a DNA that we took under Senzo's nails.
Why were you holding on to it this long? Where does it come from? Did you plant it there?
They could change a date and say it came 2020. What are you going to say?
We need the database, the core database of the file, the original docket, before we can establish that the original.
We're in a world where
the original file that is from 2014. And if it's fabricated, we'll go and have a. There used to be back in the day, your diary was more evidence. I don't know if the court still uses that concept, but with a diary, it needed to be thoroughly tested of whether it belonged to that person or not. And even the texture of the paper would be tested as to how many years has this diary been in existence. So if that is the case and they're planning on doing that, then the quality of the paper should be tested on whether it is from recently or it's from 2014. The paper from 2014, it looks different than the one that's fresh. Hi.
Hi. It's Emily and Anonymous.
Hi, sir.
Yeah, on the issue of access to information and the right of the public to see the broadcast of the trial, I blame us as the public. We've got so many intellectuals in South Africa, but nobody challenged this to the Human Rights Commission. We are all to blame for this. So, let's be honest. I mean, I'm just pissed off with it. The state is just getting away with this whole thing. And we've got so many intelligent people and so many organizations. Nobody challenged this. No. This is public interest. We cannot be deprived of the right to see what is happening.
Yeah. Because
in that regard, some can just have to blame. We are all to blame for that. To pass there, to go to the next point, I would love to see a situation whereby the defense, after tomorrow, they request the judge to make a ruling and bring in 375 because the ballistic, as far as I'm concerned, based on the information Yama witness estate, I think it was Mangena, if not Keninda, who said when you received the evidence from the storeroom, the what you call was open.
Yes, the sealed bag.
Yes, and the guy who was testifying said, now it doesn't receive it when it's opened, and the same with the ballistic. Yeah. So this guy tomorrow, I think that was it's a mess. It was an own goal because he who said, who gave us this information, who went the statement, it was open.
Yes.
And it was the police who said he doesn't receive it to the storeroom, and the same with the police. So after tomorrow, I just wish about me and the other defense, but she would say, no, I pay the land, so judge, please rule. I mean, that is, after the pathologist, the politics is very, 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 very important. And we already know there was no basis for them to do any analysis because it was open. It's enough to say this case is done. Can you go to 375?
Yes.
thanks, guys, for a good job. We appreciate it. And I must say, guys, your combination, your style of doing it with Mr. Anonymous and Sis Emily, you are doing a great job for South Africa, and your channel needs more support. And I emphasize that, please, we must keep on liking and share the channel.
Please.
So that many people can understand, because it's quality analysis that you guys are giving us. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, and it would be nice to one day have a panel of like experts. Not.
And we'll be asking them.
We are asking for you to come in and deliberate. You know, it would be nice. It would be. I'm just saying, guys. I'm just.
Yeah, daydreaming live.
I'm dreaming.
Yeah. So, thank you from the caller. Thank you. I mean, we started with this thing when it was not fashionable.
It was scary.
The first documentary, when we reviewed it, you had to look at your back, or the back of your shoulder, all this.
I was so scared, guys, when I
Yeah.
did that video. Mr. Anonymous can tell you, it took me how many hours?
Yeah, it was scary. Yeah, you'd shoot and say,
Start over and
you
be
should
like,
not say this.
No, maybe we should put it like this. Maybe we should put it like, because we didn't want to implicate anyone. Every time, remember.
Yeah, I see now we have a lot of people that are sounding, but it's all good to start up from the beginning
And deliberate
and
slowly.
Yeah, you take your niche and go straight to that thing. And it comes with a lot of responsibility.
Yeah,
because
it
you have
does.
to hey, this case is scary, man. Yeah, but in any case, thank you guys for liking a video, for being with us, and the compliments. Thank you. We appreciate them.
So much, and it's encouraging. We'll continue until such a time where we can call experts.
Oh, in terms of that thing of saying that we as the public are supposed to go there. Hey,
Yeah, the Human Rights Commission.
what?
And in numbers, and just write letters and complain. Maybe something.
Look at our system. So we have to do that.
Maybe it could do something. It could yield some form of.
Because if you go to court, you would need money. How are you gonna go up there?
How? And it's funds, it's money, it's time. So and honestly, the Meyiwa family, I remember while Judge Maumela was still presiding before De Novo, there's a time Advocate Defo entered the courtroom and wanted to communicate the concerns regarding that media application that Zandi had done, that she wanted a media blackout. She wanted no one to hear her voice or see her face. So when Advocate Defo tried to bring in the voice of the Meyiwa family to say that actually this witness is of interest,
It was shut down.
quickly. So what do you do? What do you do in such a situation where your voice, if it's opposing, it's not even considered? You know, it's not listened to. It's hogwash. They only want to listen to people that agree that those 5 accused did the crime. Those are the only voices that matter.
No, since ENCA is doing their, what we call their job in terms of interviews.
Yeah.
Can they visit Gernel? I'm not.
As well.
I'm not happy that I don't see Gernel on the
and
news.
he's quiet.
Discussing
I would
this
like
case.
to hear.
I would like
what
to
he
hear
thinks
where
now.
he is now in terms of his trust.
And it's no shade. It's no shade or anything. But I would like to hear his opinion now more than ever. I would like to hear it as well.
The same way when this case was seemingly linking the cell phones and whatnot, we saw Afroforum spokesperson
saying
rejoicing there.
There's a theory here of a mosaic, and that there's a hitman or something like that.
We are happy because it follows what our advocate
I want
Harinel-
Harinel himself.
Yeah, we want to hear what they are thinking now. Are they still feeling the same?
Was Fiso wrong?
Was Fiso wrong walking away from you guys?
Come.
How are we going to ask these things?
Harinel.
This
We want
blanket
your
approach
voice.
must be questioned.
We need it more now than ever because you did the things when it came to the Oscar Pistorius case.
Yeah. Right, guys. Thank you very much for being with us. It's a bye from me.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And until the next time, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Yes.